Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Rift Amps. Okay, so back on the Laney. I've just got it on the bench. It's not. I've got a signal running through it, but we've got no output. If you remember, we traced it to the board on the rear. Usually, on some amps, we find that the send and return contacts are dirty. So if I just bypass that, if it was those, the signal would come back, but it doesn't. And I'll show you something very interesting. If we look at the bypass switch, if I just jiggle it and move it around, there we go. So I think the issue is the switch itself, either dirty contacts or something going on. So I'm just going to pull this board out and give it an inspection, see if we can find out what's going on. Right, so there wasn't much to show you on the board itself, but what I've done is I've just put some switch cleaner in the switch, and we have output, and if I mess around with the switch, our signal remains the same. So we're just going to leave it running, soak testing for an hour or so, and then we'll just check the bias and then put it all back together. Right, so do you remember the amp that arrived last week? We didn't unwrap it at the time, but it is what I thought it would be, which is a Fender Bassman, Tweed Bassman. This particular one is the 59 Bassman reissue, the limited one. Fortunately, it's got a bit of shipping damage, so we have to see if we can fix that. And it's got a very strange, somebody's connected up the speakers to this weird connector wire. I'm not quite sure what they've got going on and why. Maybe they were trying to run an attenuator or something, but this is just a recipe for blowing an output transformer. So, to work out what's going on there. But it looks to be in reasonable shape. We'll take the back panel off. See if we can see what's going on inside. And there you go. Right, so we've just had a customer drop this one in. It is a 1972, we'll double check the year, silver plate Fender Super Reverb. Actually, looks to be in quite nice condition. So customers brought it in for a number of issues. The first one, he said that it started to make a weird smell, and then there was some smoke coming out and the fuse popped, so I suspect it's a valve's gone and it's taken some components with it. We'll get it open and have a look. He also says the reverb doesn't work, so we need to investigate that. And his third issue was, oh, he just wants us to give it a full service and check over. So there she is. Serial number A55075, which does put it in 1972. Is an export model because it's got the voltage selector. It has had the original speakers replaced with these Jensens. Whether that's a good idea, I'll leave up to you. Let me know down below. A couple of things to note. It's got a proper UK plug on it, and this is a modern replacement, so that's been changed in the past, so we know it's had some work. But the foot switch is a Yamaha 2-button switch. Is that the cause of the reverb not working? I don't know, we'll have to investigate. But there she is, a 19 72, possibly. Fender silver plate Super Reverb. Right, so we've got the Super Reverb out of its cabinet, and the serial number tells us it should be a 1972, but we look at the transformers. Mains transformer, 20th week of 1973. Choke is 25th week of 1973. Output transformer, 10th week of 1973. And the reverb transformer, 5th week of 1973. So I suspect it is a mid-73. Okay, so we've got it on the bench. Just about to do a visual inspection. So I've checked the mains fuse, and it has indeed, how can I show that to you? It has indeed blown. So we need to put a new one in. I can't see any obvious signs of smoke or anything burning. That doesn't mean there isn't anything. A couple of things I have noticed. Just turning all the pots down. That pot there is loose, and so is the treble pot on that channel. So just take off the knobs, then with a nut driver you can just give that a snug up. Easy as that. So put the pots back on. Easiest way I find to do it with these is to turn the pot fully clockwise. Then you can have number 10 pointing straight up, and that then gives you the right angle. So there you go. How quick was that? Not loose anymore. Right, so let's stick a 2 amp fuse in it. What was the value of the one that was in it? Let's see if I can read it. 2 amp, yeah. It had the right fuse in it. New one going in. Okay, so connector loader. What does it want? It wants 2 ohms. Set that to 2. Voltage selector, we're in the UK, so we set that to 240. Switch on, standby on. We're on restriction mode on our power unit here, so the light bulb is in circuit. So if there's a big short or there's a fault, that will glow at full brightness. This is a 100 watt bulb, so ready to go. No, it's fine at the moment. Putting 30-ish watts out the wall at the moment. We'll see what it comes up as those valves heat up. When it starts to draw more current, that will glow more. Interesting. Standby switch doesn't make a difference. So I've got 6-volt heaters because they're lighting up, and I can see the preamps are lighting up. I can't see that the rectifier valve is lighting up. Let me just get a meter and we can measure the high voltage. Right, so on the 5U4, that's where the DC volts should be, measuring to ground. Pin 8, we got nothing. Nothing at all. Absolutely nothing. Let's go to AC. Let's check our high voltage taps. high voltage on that pin, high voltage on that pin, got 5 volts on that pin, got voltage there, voltage there. We've got no DC volts coming off the rectifier. Nothing at all. If I measure throughout the amp in all the different places, it's nada, dead. Das ist kaputt. So, we need to have a think. What causes? Have we just got a dead rectifier valve, or have we got something else going on? Yeah, it's all a bit weird. But there is voltage there, so it should be heating up. So what is the issue with our rectifier valve? Fender branded 5U4 GB. Isn't an old American made one. Probably the original for the amp. Easiest way to test is to fit a new one. Okay, so I can't actually find a good 5U4 in my stash, so I've got a new GZ34, which will be fine to plug in this just for testing. I'm measuring on the output of the rectifier, so we should be getting DC the minute this warms up. So that's now plugged in. Let's see what we get. Bulb's glowing slightly brighter, so we're pulling more. Helped if I measured DC, wouldn't it? And as that warms up, there we go. 1 volt, 5 volts, 10 volts, 14, 15, 21, 25, so it's coming up. See, we're pulling more current now, so the bulb's glowing brighter. And that'll just keep climbing. Right, so you're going to love this. Okay, so it's staying around 37 watts consumption out the wall in restriction mode, which is about what I expect, but our high voltage went up and now it's starting to drop again. Interesting. Now, if I flick it on out of restriction mode, I'm going to do this briefly, our high voltage starts to climb slowly. If you watch our consumption out the wall, 74, 79, 84, 103, 138, 200 things, it's about to pop. There is a slow major short to ground somewhere in this amp. So how do we find it? Keep it in restriction mode, and we're just going to pull the output valves at first. See if that helps us identify where our short is. Or at least where in the circuit the fault may lie. See, now I've pulled that output valve, that voltage has jumped up again. So now in restriction mode, we're idling rather than at 70 volts, 400, which is what I would expect. I take it off restriction mode, we're getting nearly 500 volts unloaded from the output stage, and we're idling about 47 watts out the wall, which is about what I'd expect. So our fault lies somewhere in the output stage. Is it the valves, tubes, or is it something else? I think we need to get these on the tester. Right, so I've just been doing some further checks and inspection. I'm just measuring the negative bias supply on the grids of the output valve. There's no output valves in at the moment. We have got the rectifier in. Currently got negative 30.5 volts DC, which is, yeah, maybe. But I was just prodding around and I noticed that this cap, hopefully trying to get it to focus, is actually loose and broken. Now, if I touch it to the terminal, our negative voltage increases. So we've got to get that sorted and keep investigating. Okay, so as far as dangerous setups go, this takes the biscuit, but and this is something you should absolutely never do at home, but I've done further testing on the amp. I suspect that the output transformer has an internal short, so I've unsoldered the original and I've just clipped in a replacement. It's not the exact replacement for the amp, but it's one that will work. Absolutely do never do this unless you've got protection in place. But we've done that. Our B plus remains stable. Our wall consumption is where it should be, and the amp's running fine. So, proof that the output transformer is balked. Now, what caused it? Was it a valve that went, or was it something else? I don't know, but what I do know is that the rectifier valve, the original rectifier, is dead, and this 6L6 has a broken locator pin. So was that inserted in the wrong orientation that caused it to go bang? I don't know. But what this amp needs is an output transformer and a new rectifier valve and a new set of 6L6s. So I've just pulled the reverb tank out of the Super Reverb, and 4AB 3C1B Accutronics, and it's pretty obvious what the problem is. Both of the transducers on either end have become detached. So we're just going to solder those back together, and then that will save him quite a bit of cash. It's also only got one spring. Okay, so bad news, guys. I re-soldered the tank connections back together, but unfortunately one of the transducers is shorted. So this tank is dead. Rubbish. So I have spoken to the customer. He has authorised me to supply and fit a new output transformer to the Super Reverb, which I've got on order. We're going to have a new set of output valves and a rectifier, and we need to give it a good service. He's authorised everything, so when the transformer comes in, I'll get that replaced and I'll show you, and then I'll show you the amp once it's all sorted. Okay, we've also had this 2-rock traditional clean come back in. This is one we've had in before. He keeps complaining of a rustling noise when you turn the amp on or off, or put it in standby, change any of the power modes. Now, it was doing it intermittently, and it's been in for a couple of times, and every time it's come in it hasn't played up, so we've been unable to find the source of the problem. He dropped it back in because he says it's now doing all the time, does it every time. So of course we get it on the bench, give it a go, it does it once, and now it's stopped doing it again. So once again the 2-rock defeats me. But we'll keep going and see how we get on. What was the final thing? There's one more thing I wanted to show you. It's the... Oh yeah, so we've got the PR35 from the other week. Plates are on. We just need to give it a final soak test. Then it can go in its cabinet down there next to Henry. And the other thing was the... Oh yes. Got a PR50 build on the go that's nearly done. So this is our 50 watt PR amplifier. This one doesn't have tremolo. The PR doesn't have, sorry, the 50 doesn't have tremolo, but it does have 2-knob reverb. So we're nearly done with this. We're just doing final wiring on it. There you go. Got to wire in the reverb transformer as well. And then the cabinet should be with me for this tomorrow, which will be Thursday. And then we can get that off to the customer too. Well, that's it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know whenever we post a new video. We'll see you on Friday.